sometimes I wonder if people really understand the life that we have in tech. And I think a lot of people misunderstand the life we get to live. Honestly. I think that I think that people have so many misconceptions about how they think their life will be when they get in tech. But I also think that people tend to forget that there is a reason that we are paid very well. That there's a reason that we're paid better than pharmacists. Later down the line in your career, of course, pharmacists start making like 180K a year right off the bat. But then they also have like 200, 400, 500K in debt, right? Well, where for most of us, unless you get into a top tier company and you went to a top tier college, we tend to make that amount in maybe 3, 4 years, 5 years. But there's a reason where we can make that kind of money without accruing all of that medical debt, right? Medical school debt. People tend to think that you will be rich easily. Like working in tech is like a quick scheme, a get rich quick scheme, right? It isn't, it's not. It seems quick because you can go from making only 30K a year, 40K a year, 50K a year to your regular job, non-technical job, and then work in tech in maybe 2 years, 3 years, make over 6 figures. So it's kind of like a get rich scheme, but that comes with a lot of work though. For me to get to where I am today, the amount of work that I had to put in, holy crap. The amount of work that I still put in, honestly, I put even more work now, 6 years into my career, moving closer to heading towards 7 years. I work more and I put in more effort now, 6 years in my career than I did 6 years ago. And 6 years ago, I barely knew anything. I was grinding and learning code till 3 a.m. I'm not saying I work until 3 a.m., but I feel like I work even more. Now it's like I'm not working more to keep a job, or I'm not working more to learn more code. I'm working more because I make hell of a lot more money. I make more than 4 or 5 times what I earned 6 years ago, but I also have 4 to 5 times more responsibility than I did 4 or 5 years ago. Why? When you are paid this kind of money, they're paying you because of the value you bring, and they're paying you this amount of money because they will need to depend on you. And for you to maintain that skill, for you to be able to maintain that value that you bring to a company, for you to maintain the technical knowledge and to stay up to date requires a lot of effort for you the rest of your career in tech. And I want people to understand that. So yeah, when you get in tech, you're going to make really good money. You will, eventually, if not right off the bat, right? You know, in the midst of this recession, companies reach out to me. I'm receiving these opportunities. Because of the work I put in. I'm receiving these opportunities because of the sacrifice I put in. Yo, when I first became a developer, I remember who I was dating at the time. She didn't like how much work I put into learning code. She ended up cheating on me, and I'm glad she did. And then I met another person, and this person didn't like how much effort I put in my career. They wanted me to focus on something else. I didn't want to focus on that other thing. I want to focus on my career because I want to make sure I can take care of my family in this world that's freaking expensive as hell to live in. And then that relationship didn't work. But that ended up working out for the better because I met my fiance who I love so much. But like, what I'm trying to say is, I had to sacrifice those relationships, and I have zero regrets, by the way. Zero regrets. I'm happy as hell, right? But I had to make those sacrifices, believing in myself, knowing that it would be worth it, that I couldn't let these two partners slow down my career trajectory. If I listened to what they wanted, I'll tell you this, I would not be where I am today. And I'm happy as hell today. Really happy, right? And so I want people to understand that, like, this takes a lot of work and effort. You know, a misconception people have as well is that they assume that you'll immediately have amazing work-life balance. How I wish that was true. Now, when it's not busy, I have amazing work balance. When I worked at New Relic, I have amazing work-life balance. When I worked at Entrepreneur, it was pretty good, but not always. My first job, work-life balance, what the heck was that? My first job. I got my first job after just 3 months. And after getting my job, after just 3 months, my first company as a junior web developer working with HTML, CSS, jQuery, PHP, Laravel, MySQL. I only knew HTML, CSS at the time when they hired me, so I had to grind like crazy. I had to grind nonstop. And at the same time, I'm filming YouTube videos. This was 6 years ago. And so I'm working till 3 a.m, learning code and making videos nonstop. I did not have a work-life balance, hence why those relationships didn't work. You're an entrepreneur. They changed technologies while I worked there. We went from jQuery to moving to Svelte.js, and I had to learn Svelte.js. I had to learn these new technologies. We're moving from PHP and Laravel to Node.js. I'm learning Tailwind. Is it Tailwind? I think it was Tailwind CSS. And so learning these technologies to make sure I keep up. And then, and so like, a lot of learning. And so I want people to understand that, like, no, you don't expect to have work-life balance right away. You have to understand, like, going to your first tech job, your first 2 to 3, 4 years tech job, treat that like it's college. Why? Your first 1 to 2 years, you just need to make sure that you get this. You're able to be comfortable with the life of a dev, of working 9 to 5 and learning code on the weekends, maybe an hour or two here and there after every day of work. Yeah, people be like, I don't want to learn after work. Well, dang, you're not going to move far in this career. If you want to be stuck with where you are, I mean, sure, making $70K, $50K a year is nice, but why only stay there when you can reach for more and have a better life with your family, right? Invest. And that's up to you, right? Your first 2 years. And so then you move to your junior, your senior year as a developer, 4 years in. Why do I say this? Because after you finish your 4th year as a dev, as you move on to year number 5, that's when the really crazy opportunities come in. But when those crazy opportunities come in, at those interviews, what they're going to ask you are things like, what did you do your first 4 years in tech? What technology did you work in? What problems did you solve? What problems did you hit? What was the most difficult problem you had to face your first 4 years in tech as a developer, as an engineer? And if you can't answer that well with technical answers, then you wasted those 4 years, right? Like when you go to college hoping that it'll really prepare for you for your first legit high-paying job after school, right after college. Same thing in tech. Those first 4 years, you grind your ass off for 2 to 4 years, maybe 5 years. Try to be as technical as possible. Take on the most challenging projects so that when you get that first interview at a fan company, at a startup that can pay you 6 figures, high 6 figures. Sorry about that little blur, but at a company that can pay you $250K a year after 5 or 6 years in tech. If you don't use those 4 or 5 years to really learn the advanced technology, to challenge yourself, take on difficult things, search for difficult things you could work on, to better prove yourself at a future job, not just that job, dang, you wasted your time. And that's the life of a dev working in tech. I remember watching a video 6 years ago about how when you work at these fan companies, you have great benefits, which is true. Health benefits, which is true. But a lot of the time when you work at your first job as dev, it's not going to be at a big, large tech company, especially as a self-taught developer. It's going to be at a smaller company that's willing to take a risk on you. And when you work at a smaller company, guess what? You tend to not have the best health insurance. My first 2 years in tech, 0 health insurance. I had to pay that with cash. I remember how much, oh my God. My health insurance alone every month was $650, or maybe it was like $600 a month working at my first job for 2 years. But then on top of that, for my medicine was $250. So technically I was paying about $850, almost $1,000 on medicine and health insurance every month. I have I have a skin disorder that's very expensive to maintain. My medicine alone is $17,000 every 3 months. That's how expensive it is, right? And I didn't have the best insurance. I had to pay so much money out of pocket because that company's cheap as hell. And to this day, they still don't pay health insurance, even though they promised down the line they would, right? A smaller company. And so I thought that would happen. No, I had to, but I mean, I made more money. That's why I was able to pay for more expensive health insurance, right? Through the health insurance marketplace, whatever it's called. Then I moved to a better job at Entrepreneur, and I was able to get decent health insurance finally, right? So that doesn't happen right off the bat. And some people think that you'd be able to have like free lunch at your company every single day or something. That's at the large tech companies. Not every tech company does that. At Airbyte, I believe we do that every day for lunch where I work right now. But not every company will do that as well. And so I think some people will think like right off the bat, you're going to have an amazing life working in tech. I want you to understand, no, you have to work towards that. That's to come to you. That doesn't just come out of nowhere right off the bat to just anyone. Culture? The hell is that? My first job, culture was horrible. Micromanagement here and there. The president of the company, toxic. He would stalk my YouTube channel. You know, even after I stopped working in that company, when I would say something that would bring up something at that company because the kids at that company stalked me on social media, they would report it to their daddy, and then he would call me. Like, it's crazy. And even that their dad was a nice guy. He gave me a lot of opportunities. I'm very thankful. But he also lied to me a lot. When you work at a small company, he made a lot of promises. When I joined that company, they promised after 3 months, I'll receive a $50K salary over my $45K salary, right? I started $45K a year. They said it would go up to $50K a year. They did not give me a raise for the 2 years I was there. They finally they were willing to give me a $60,000 salary, right? When I was going to leave to Entrepreneur. That was the only time. I'm glad I left that company. And so, people will think that these first jobs that you work in tech will be amazing. That's not true. It sucks. But I guess one way to see it is like kind of like, when you join the military, there's a bit of hazing. When you go to a fraternity, whatever it is, I don't know what it's called. In college, I never went to college. I mean, I did, but I dropped out. There's some hazing at some schools, which I don't think it's good. But let's just say, like, hazing, it sucks, right? As you're a new person to that fraternity, whatever. Same thing in tech. You could see it like that. It's going to suck because as a junior developer, guess what? You are replaceable. You are 100% replaceable as a junior. How many people out there are trying to get their first job as a junior developer? Guess what? Companies will take advantage of that. Now, one thing to note is that when you work at these companies, that there are two types of people. Someone who's okay staying at a company, making that pay, being mistreated for the rest of their career. There are more people who are like that than the other, which is the person who's just using that as a stepping stone to move to the next step in their career. I know way too many people who are still at those companies, who still work at those. I mean, let me go look at this. Let's see. I'm not gonna say this name. But let's see if someone still works on one of those companies. All right, I'm looking at this person's LinkedIn. Jeez. Yes. So one of the engineers I worked at, an Entrepreneur, is still there. And this person's been there for almost 7 years now. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. That's totally fine. But you have to understand that your growth in income will not be as fast as compared to if you move to another company every couple of years. And that's fine. They're happy, I guess, right? Well, when I spoke with that person when I used to work there, they weren't happy. And they were also thinking that no one would hire them anymore. That lack of confidence, even though they were better developers than me, right? And so there are two types of people. And the question is, which person are you? Are you going to be that person? You got that decent job and you're comfortable, or move on, right? So anyway, that's for another video. I want people to understand that working in tech is amazing. The opportunities we receive, the and I say this literally every video, the amount of income that we receive, mind-boggling income, the way that people and recruiters headhunt for you to take you away from your company to pay you even more money is amazing. It comes with a cost, though. It comes with a cost. How much money, not that money, but how much time are you willing to put in? How much discipline are you willing to have? Hard work and hustle are you willing to put in for the amazing results you have 4 or 5 years down your career? That is absolutely up to you, right? Life in tech is amazing. It's not for everyone. It's very competitive. It's not easy. There are jerks in tech that you work with. They're it's tough. We're paid a lot of money, but if you don't, if you're not willing to earn what you made when you work in a company, you'll also lose your job. So I want everyone to take that into account. Tech is amazing, but it's definitely difficult. Anyway, that's what I want to talk about in this episode. I hope y'all like that. I made a 10-minute version of this video on the link description below on my main channel, but I really wanted to emphasize that even more since I only have like 10 minutes to talk about a topic on my main channel. So I hope y'all like that. I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.